The desperate signal. The twin sons of Zephyr cast their final light across the crystalline towers of New Harmony as Dr. Keela pressed her scaled hand against the emergency broadcast console. Her people, the Zephyrians, had built their civilization on principles of knowledge and peace, their cities rising like jeweled monuments to scientific achievement. Now those same cities burned under the relentless bombardment of the Vorthok Empire. Keela's laboratory, once filled with the gentle hum of quantum research equipment, now shook with each explosion that rocked the capital. Through the transparent walls, she could see the massive wedge-shaped vessels of the Vorthok fleet hanging in the sky like dark omens. Their weapons fired continuously, turning centuries of Zephyrian culture into ash and rubble. "This is Dr. Keela Vesh of the Zephyrian Science Council." She spoke into the transmitter, her melodic voice carrying across the electromagnetic spectrum. "Our world is dying. The Vorthok Empire has come to our system not as conquerors, but as destroyers. They seek not our resources or our surrender, but our complete extinction." The building shuddered as another plasma barrage struck the research district. Emergency lighting flickered, casting eerie shadows across the laboratory walls. Keela continued her transmission, knowing it might be her species' final words to the galaxy. "We are a people of science and learning. We have never raised weapons against another species. Our greatest achievement was the cure for the Andromedan plague, which we shared freely with all civilizations. Yet the Vorthok see our very existence as an affront to their empire of conquest." 3 star systems away, her words reached the ears of those who would change everything. Deep Space Station Omega hung in the void between stars, its massive arrays constantly scanning the galaxy for signs of extraterrestrial intelligence. Communications Specialist Lieutenant Jake Morrison was midway through his night shift when the alien transmission cut through the cosmic static like a blade. The voice that emerged from his speakers was unlike anything in the database. It carried harmonics that seemed to resonate with emotions themselves, conveying desperation that transcended language barriers. Morrison's hands flew across his console, recording everything while running the signal through the translation matrix. "Commander Hayes to communications," the intercom crackled. "We're picking up an unidentified transmission on multiple frequencies." "Copy that, Commander." Patching it through to the main display now. Commander Elena Hayes arrived in the communications center within minutes, her uniform crisp despite the early hour. She listened to the alien message with growing concern, watching as the translation software worked to decode the complex linguistic patterns. "Analysis shows the transmission is coming from the Zephyr system, approximately 73 light-years from Earth," Morrison reported. "The signal is being broadcast on emergency frequencies using quantum-entangled particles for faster-than-light communication." Hayes studied the star charts that appeared on the main screen. The Zephyr system was far beyond human space, in a region that had never been explored by Earth's ships. Yet somehow, the desperation in that alien voice felt personal. "Send a priority message to Fleet Command on Luna," Hayes ordered. "Mark it for Admiral Chen's immediate attention. Include the full transmission and all technical data." The message reached Luna Station 12 hours later, where Admiral Sarah Chen sat in her office overlooking the military shipyards that orbited Earth's moon. At 62, Chen had commanded the human defense fleet through 3 major conflicts, earning a reputation as both a brilliant strategist and a leader who never abandoned those in need. She played the Zephyrian transmission 3 times, each repetition strengthening her resolve. The translation software had worked overnight to provide a complete analysis of the message, revealing the full scope of the tragedy unfolding in the distant star system. The Zephyrians were a peaceful species, their technology focused on healing and creation rather than warfare. They had made contact with several other civilizations, offering medical aid and scientific knowledge freely. The Vorthok Empire, however, saw such altruism as weakness to be exploited. "The Vorthok have been expanding for over 2 centuries, reported Intelligence Director Colonel James Park as he briefed the Admiral. "They follow a doctrine of absolute conquest, Any species that refuses to submit completely is marked for extermination. Chen studied the tactical data on her holographic display. The Vorthek fleet was massive, over 200 vessels of various sizes, all designed for orbital bombardment and planetary subjugation. Against them, the Zephyrians had only a handful of research vessels and civilian transports. "What forces do we have available for immediate deployment?" Chen asked. "The Fifth Fleet is completing training exercises near Neptune," Park replied. 12 heavy cruisers, 36 destroyers, and support vessels. "Admiral, with respect, the Zephyr system is far outside our operational area. We have no strategic interests there." Chen turned to face the viewport, looking out at the shipyards where humanity's most advanced warships took shape. "Colonel, do you know why we built this fleet?" "To defend human space and human interests, Admiral." "No," Chen said quietly. "We built this fleet to defend those who cannot defend themselves. That's what makes us human." Within 6 hours, Admiral Chen had authorization from the Defense Council to deploy the Fifth Fleet on a humanitarian mission. The politicians had debated for 3 hours before reaching their decision, but Chen had known from the moment she heard the Zephyrian plea that humanity would answer. Captain Marcus Reed received his orders aboard the UES Prometheus as the massive battle cruiser orbited Neptune's largest moon. At 41, Reed was the youngest captain in the fleet, promoted after his tactical brilliance during the Titan Rebellion. His crew of 800 had trained together for 3 years, forging the kind of unit cohesion that won battles. "All hands, this is the captain," Reed announced over the ship's communication system. "We have received new orders from Fleet Command. The Fifth Fleet is deploying to the Zephyr system to render assistance to an alien species under attack." The bridge crew exchanged glances, but their expressions showed determination rather than surprise. The Prometheus had been built for exactly this kind of mission, her weapon systems designed to project human power across vast distances. "Navigation. Plot a course for the Zephyr system. Maximum sustainable speed," Reed ordered. "Communications. Begin monitoring all frequencies for updates from the Zephyrian government." Commander Lisa Park, the ship's executive officer, stepped up beside Reed's command chair. "Sir, long-range sensors show no other vessels responding to the distress call. We'll be going in alone." Reed nodded grimly. "Then we'll have to be enough." The Fifth Fleet departed the solar system 18 hours after receiving the Zephyrian transmission. 12 heavy cruisers led the formation, their fusion drives creating brilliant points of light against the darkness of space. The destroyers spread out in escort formation, their sleek hulls bristling with missile tubes and particle beam arrays. As the fleet entered hyperspace, the crews settled into the routine of deep space travel. But this journey was different from their training exercises. They were heading toward a real war, against an enemy that had never faced human military doctrine. In the Prometheus's briefing room, Reed gathered his senior officers to review what little intelligence they had on the Vorthek Empire. The aliens were larger than humans, with thick armor-like skin and natural weapons evolved from their predatory ancestors. Their ships were massive and heavily armed, designed to overwhelm opponents through sheer firepower. "They've conquered 47 star systems over the past 2 centuries," reported Intelligence Officer Lieutenant Sarah Kim. "Their standard tactic is to arrive in overwhelming force and demand immediate surrender. Species that refuse are systematically exterminated." "What about their military technology?" asked Weapons Officer Commander Tom Bradley. "Their ships are powerful but inflexible," Kim continued. "They rely on heavy plasma weapons and kinetic bombardment. Their defensive systems are strong but not adaptive. They've never faced an opponent that uses our style of mobile warfare." Reed studied the tactical displays showing Vorthek ship designs. The alien vessels were impressive, but they were designed to fight other aliens who used similar tactics. Humanity had developed its military doctrine through centuries of warfare against other humans, creating strategies that emphasized speed, flexibility, and innovative thinking. "How long until we reach the system?" Reed asked his navigation officer. 72 hours at current speed, Captain. Lieutenant Commander David Chen replied. We should arrive approximately 18 hours after the Vorthok ultimatum expires. The mood in the briefing room grew somber. Everyone understood that they might be too late to save the Zephyrian civilization. But Reed's expression remained determined. Then we'll arrive in time to make the Vorthok pay for what they've done, he said quietly. And we'll make sure the galaxy remembers that humanity keeps its promises. The Fifth Fleet continued its journey through hyperspace, racing toward a distant star system where an ancient civilization faced extinction. Behind them, Earth's leaders continued to debate the wisdom of military intervention in alien affairs. Ahead of them lay the unknown, where humanity would face its first test as a galactic power. In the depths of space, human ships carried 40,000 warriors toward their first encounter with an alien empire that had never known defeat. The Zephyrians had called for help, and humanity was bringing the storm. The hyperspace tunnel stretched endlessly before them, a corridor of twisted light and shadow that connected distant stars. Inside the fleet's ships, crews prepared for battle while their vessels carried them toward a confrontation that would define humanity's place in the galaxy. Time was running out for the Zephyrians, but help was coming. And when the human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Zephyr system, the Vorthok Empire would learn why humanity had earned its place among the stars through strength, courage, and an unwavering commitment to defend the innocent. When humans bring the storm, the Fifth Fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Zephyr system, like predators emerging from the void. Captain Reed stood on the bridge of the Prometheus, watching the tactical displays fill with the glow of burning worlds. The sight that greeted them was worse than their worst intelligence estimates. Sensor report, Reed ordered, his voice cutting through the bridge's tense atmosphere. Sir, I'm reading massive debris fields where Zephyrian orbital installations used to be, reported Sensor Operator Lieutenant Maria Santos. 3 of their outer colonies show signs of complete sterilization. The main world is still intact, but barely. On the main screen, Zephyr Prime appeared as a wounded jewel, its crystalline cities reduced to scattered ruins. The beautiful towers that had once reached toward the stars now lay shattered, their fragments glittering in the light of the system's twin suns. Orbital defense platforms hung in space like broken toys, their twisted metal still glowing from recent destruction. Vorthok contacts, Santos continued, her voice tight with controlled anger. I count 193 vessels in system. They're arranged in 3 battle groups, with the main concentration in orbit around Zephyr Prime. War Marshal Krax stood on the command deck of his flagship, the Worldbreaker, watching plasma beams reduce another Zephyrian city to ash. The conquest had proceeded exactly as planned. The weak aliens had offered no meaningful resistance, their primitive weapons barely scratching Vorthok armor plating. At 3 meters tall and covered in natural armor that had evolved over millennia of warfare, Krax embodied the Vorthok ideal of strength through conquest. His species had climbed to the top of their homeworld's food chain through violence, and had carried that philosophy to the stars. War Marshal, his tactical officer reported, we are detecting new contacts at the system's edge. 48 vessels of unknown configuration, approaching at high speed. Krax barely glanced at the display. Another species had arrived to witness Vorthok power, probably hoping to negotiate for salvage rights to the dead world's resources. It happened often during conquest operations. Open communications, he ordered. Inform them that this system now belongs to the Vorthok Empire. They may observe our victory, but they will not interfere. The response came back in a language that the Vorthok computers had never encountered, transmitted on frequencies that cut through their jamming systems like a blade through armor. Attention Vorthok Fleet. This is Captain Marcus Reed of the Human Defense Fleet. You are ordered to cease hostilities against the Zephyrian people immediately and withdraw from this system. You have 1 minute to comply. Krax's mandibles clicked in what passed for laughter among his kind. Humans, never heard of them. Another weak species thinking they can challenge the Empire. He activated the fleet communication system, broadcasting to all Vorthek ships. Unknown vessels, you have 10 minutes to leave this system or be destroyed. This is your only warning. The human response was immediate and devastating. The Prometheus fired first, her main railgun sending a tungsten projectile at 30% of light speed directly into the nearest Vorthak heavy cruiser. The alien ship simply disintegrated, vaporized by kinetic energy that exceeded anything in the Empire's arsenal. All ships, weapons free, Reed commanded. Show them what humans bring to war. The Fifth Fleet attacked with a precision and fury that caught the Vorthak completely off guard. The heavy cruiser Thunder unleashed a barrage of guided missiles that swarmed around Vorthak point defenses like angry insects. Each warhead carried enough antimatter to crack open a battleship's hull. The destroyer squadron split into attack formations, their smaller ships darting between the massive alien vessels with impossible agility. Human ships moved like dancers through the void, their pilots using three-dimensional thinking that the Vorthak had never encountered. Krax watched in shock as his fleet began dying around him. These humans fought nothing like the other species the Empire had conquered. Their ships moved with coordination that seemed almost supernatural, attacking weak points with surgical precision, while avoiding return fire through maneuvers that defied conventional tactics. Return fire, Krax screamed at his weapons officers. Destroy them all. The Vorthek fleet began to respond, their heavy plasma cannons tracking human ships across the battlefield. But the humans had studied their enemy during the long journey from Earth, and they knew exactly how Vorthek weapons worked. Commander Park coordinated the fleet's electronic warfare systems from the Prometheus's Combat Information Center. Human computers, generations ahead of Vorthek technology, jammed enemy targeting sensors and fed false information to their fire control systems. Vorthek plasma beams, meant to vaporize human ships, instead struck empty space while return fire found its mark with devastating accuracy. Fighter Squadron Leader Commander Sarah Walsh launched from the carrier Valiant with 72 attack craft. The human fighters were tiny compared to Vorthek vessels, but they carried weapons designed to exploit every weakness in alien armor. Gold Squadron, target their engine sections, Walsh ordered over the tactical network. Silver Squadron, take out their weapon arrays. Red Squadron, you're with me on the flyship. The fighters swarmed over Vorthek capital ships, like wolves attacking ancient giants. Their particle beams cut through armor plating that had never been designed to withstand such concentrated, precisely aimed fire. Secondary explosions rippled along alien hulls as ammunition storage and fuel tanks detonated in chain reactions. On Zephyr Prime, Dr. Keela watched the battle from her damaged laboratory, hardly daring to believe what her instruments were telling her. The unknown ships had appeared from nowhere and were systematically destroying the Vorthek fleet that had seemed invincible just hours before. "Who are they?" asked her assistant, Dr. Vex, staring at the tactical display where human ships danced between burning Vorthek vessels. "I don't know," Keela whispered, her voice filled with wonder. "But they came. Someone answered our call." The battle raged for 6 hours, though the outcome was decided in the first 30 minutes. The Vorthak had never faced an opponent that fought with such calculated violence, such complete understanding of modern warfare. Their ships were designed to intimidate primitive species, not engage experienced military forces that had perfected the art of war over millennia. Reed coordinated the fleet's movements from the Prometheus's bridge, his tactical display showing the systematic destruction of the Vorthek force. Human ships worked in perfect coordination, their crews executing maneuvers that would have been impossible without centuries of naval tradition. Translated to the stars. "Sir, we're receiving surrender offers from 17 Vorthak vessels," reported Communications Officer Lieutenant Peter Hayes. "Negative," Reed replied coldly. "They came here to commit genocide. We don't negotiate with exterminators." The Worldbreaker was one of the last ships to fall, its massive hull cracked open by repeated railgun impacts. As emergency systems failed and his bridge filled with toxic smoke, Krax sent a final transmission to the Vorthak High Command. The humans are not like the others. He gasped into his communicator. They fight without fear, without mercy. They understand war in ways we never imagined. They are coming for you. The transmission ended as the Worldbreaker broke apart, its reactor core detonating in a brief star that lit up the system. With the space battle won, Reed ordered the fleet's Marine contingent to begin planetary operations. Colonel Janet Rodriguez led the assault force down to Zephyr Prime. Her soldiers prepared for urban warfare against any surviving Vorthak ground forces. The Marines found a world in ruins, but not a dead one. Zephyrian survivors emerged from hidden shelters, their large eyes filled with gratitude and disbelief. The human soldiers, trained for war but raised on principles of protection and justice, immediately began organizing relief efforts. "This is Colonel Rodriguez to all units," she broadcast to her scattered forces. "Establish aid stations in the major population centers. Medical teams, begin treating civilian casualties. Engineering units, focus on restoring power and communications." Dr. Keela met the human colonel at the ruins of the planetary capital, her graceful form moving carefully through the debris of her civilization. Despite everything she had lost, her eyes showed hope for the first time in weeks. "Colonel Rodriguez," Keela said, her translation device converting her melodic speech into English. "I am Dr. Keela Vesh. I sent the message that brought you here." Rodriguez removed her helmet, revealing the face of a career soldier softened by genuine compassion. "Doctor, I'm sorry we couldn't get here sooner. But we're here now, and we're going to help you rebuild." The cleanup and rescue operations continued for 3 weeks. Human engineers worked alongside Zephyrian scientists to restore damaged infrastructure, while medical teams treated the wounded with a combination of human and alien techniques that proved remarkably effective. On the Prometheus, Reed filed his after-action report with Fleet Command. The Fifth Fleet had achieved complete victory with minimal casualties, proving that human military doctrine was effective against alien opponents. More importantly, they had saved an entire civilization from extinction. "Captain," Commander Park approached him on the bridge. "We're receiving a transmission from the Zephyrian Council. They're formally requesting an alliance with Earth." Reed smiled, looking out at the system where human and Zephyrian ships now patrolled together. "Tell them we accept, and transmit our tactical data to Fleet Command. Other species need to know that humanity stands with those who cannot stand alone." News of the Vorthak defeat spread through the galaxy's communication networks faster than any ship could travel. In the capital worlds of dozens of civilizations, leaders studied the reports with growing interest. A new power had emerged from the void, one that fought not for conquest but for justice. The Zephyrian transmission had traveled across the galaxy as a plea for help. The human response had returned as a promise that Earth would stand with the innocent against those who would destroy them. In the depths of space, the Fifth Fleet began its journey home, their mission complete but their work just beginning. They had proven that human courage and determination could triumph over seemingly impossible odds. More importantly, they had shown the galaxy that some species were worth saving, no matter the cost. The Vorthak Empire, which had terrorized 47 star systems for 2 centuries, sent no more conquest fleets. Word spread through their ranks that humanity was watching, waiting, and ready to bring the storm wherever innocent people called for help. And in the Zephyr system, 2 species that had never met before began building something new together. A friendship forged in the fire of battle and tempered by the shared understanding that some things are worth fighting for, no matter the odds.